All right, I'm going to try to explain hash maps. Okay. First thing, let's say we have a little program here, just a skeleton of a program. But here's the task. We want to store data based on keys. So I know that John, for example, is a computer programmer. Pat is a security guard, and Margot is a business analyst. And I want to store these qualities of John, Pat, and Margot. I could create objects and then arrays of objects. There's a lot of things that I could do. If I wanted something very simple, I could start with, say, for example, putting two string arrays, one for the names and one for the occupation. So the first name matches the first occupation. So the first name would be John and the first occupation would be computer programmer, right? So it would be something like this. If we add the people, it would be names of 0 is John and occupations of 0 is computer programmer. Names of 1 is Pat, occupations of 1 is security guard, and so on and so forth. Now, this is fine as long as you know that you're only going to have a defined number of people, in this case 3. Because if you want to add another person, then what you need to do is to create a bigger array, copy both of these arrays into the bigger array, okay? And that becomes a problem when you're adding and deleting a lot. And when you delete, of course, you lose whatever space you had deleted. So arrays are not a good structure to store information like this, okay? To store matching things that can vary. So here's when we go to the hash maps. The hash maps are a data structure that allows us to associate a name to some other information. This name will call it a key, and this extra information will call it a value. Okay, in this case, the key is John, and the value is computer programmer. The keys of this information are John, Pat, and Margot, and the values are computer programmer, security guard, and business analyst. Each key has one value. Okay. Now, in order to use the hash map, we're going to import java.util.hashmap. Okay. Again, the hash map is this structure that allows us to store keys and values. So let's see how that works. First, we declare a hash map. Okay, hash map, and you say what is going to be the type of the key, because you can have also integer keys or double keys or any other object keys. Okay, it's the type of the keys and what object are the values. In this case, because we have names and occupations, is going to be string a string. Now keep in mind that these two have to be objects. They cannot be primitives, okay? An array of primitives, sure, but they have to be objects. They have to be pointers. Basically, if you look at the videos about variables, you'll see what a pointer is. But these two have to be objects. The name, and then new hash map, and then again you repeat the type of key and value pairs, open and close parentheses. Now let's add some people. All you do is call this name, right, the variable name people, dot put, and then you put the key and the value, and that's what you do. If you want to add another person, it's just as simple as doing another put. Okay, you don't have to make this a specific size nor anything like that. This just automatically grows. Okay. Now, say you want to access one of these elements. So in the case of the array, if you wanted to access, say, Margot, you would need to know that Margot was in position 2. Here, no. Here, just knowing the key gives you access. And you can test whether a key exists or not. So you can say something like, if people, this hash map, contains key Pat, then print something. And what are you going to print? You're going to print Pat's occupation is, and then the value of that occupation of Pat. And the value of Pat is people.getPat. Okay? So get gets you the value of a key. Put puts a key and a value. Okay? Now if I wanted to print the whole, let's try this code. So let's compile this. And I have one problem here, which is I'm missing a set of curly braces. There you go. Compile and run this. So it'll say Pat's occupation is security guard. Now, if I wanted to print, okay, I would do a for loop. This is the enhanced for loop. This method, keySet, this is how I get a set of all possible keys. So I'm going to go for every key, which I know is a string. For every key, I'm going to print line the key, and then people.get, and then whatever that key was. Okay, so I'm going to just iterate over this. So I compile it, run it, and I have Pat's occupation security guard, which came from here, right? And then I have each person in my hash map and their occupation. Now, something else that I could do is I can not only add just say string, but like I said, it could be any object. So for example, I can save all the grades of students, for example, in a classroom. So I can create a hash map where the key is a string, namely the student's name, and then the value is an array of doubles. Okay, and this is going to be called grades. And the way I would store things, let's create a couple of arrays of grades. So G has 3.4, 4.0, and 2.3, and H has 2.3, 3.5, and 4.0. Okay, now let's put them in the hash map grades. It's just as simple as saying grades.put, again, the key and the value. And the value happens this time to be an array and not a string, but it's something that you can easily put. And you know, you could print when you get Jack, for example, or you get Maya, what will be returned is an array of doubles. So you can just assume if you say grades.get Jack, that's an array of doubles, and here you're accessing the first element of that array. So let's look at Jack's array, the first element. It's a 4.0. This system out print line should then print a 4.0. Let's see if that's the case. Run, and there it is, 4.0. Again, the main point I want to make is that you can put whatever you want in there. Of course, if I wanted to print this, I would have to go for each key, just like I did here. Okay, but every time I get a key, I would have to get the value of that key, and that is an array. So then there's another for loop to print the array, right? That's how I would print this. So hashmaps allow us to store a lot of things. A couple of important points. If I enter a repeated key, so for example, if I were to put here something like grades.put Maya, and instead of putting H, I put G, okay, then this second put will replace this one. It won't be, there's no two elements in the hash map with the same key. Each key has to be different. If the same key is there, it'll replace the older one. So for example, in here, I'm going to change the occupation of Aaron. And I would say people.put Aaron, and I will say cook. That should replace the peacekeeper troop. So I'll compile that and run it. And here you see that Aaron appears as a cook, because this one overrode this. Now, it's important to notice that this structure actually finds elements. So if you have, say, 25,000 elements in a hash map, finding 25,000 elements by a key can be a lot faster than an array, because finding elements in this data structure, it happens in constant time via something called a hash key, okay, or a hash. That is something for a different chapter. It's a data structure, okay, that I suggest you revisit. But this is about hash maps. They're a pretty neat structure to play with.